Kimbo, Natatanzambi Yamazulu, King Fuku Akuisa, glory, all praise to the Most High. I like that greeting from the brother Cholombo. I try to do it in my videos now, and I feel it brings a lot of inspiration. First of all, I want to say CME to brother Jonathan, CME to brother Masia, CME to Chiba Malongo and his team, CME to Pastor Mello, CME to Issachar couple, because I know I learned from that as well. I know I'm still learning from brother, I can't call it, Lions of Israel is another one I listen to sometimes. I also listen to, Thoughts, Camera, Action. That brother, he brings some stuff that is really interesting, and CME to him. CME to all the Bantus all over the world on this earth, especially the Bantus in Congo, Yissa'Yah Kongo, to here in the Americas, North America, South America, the Caribbean islands, Asia, all of the oceanic groups that don't know they're Bantu. And I thank you for the revelations that you provide. Matondo. Today's lesson, or I should say revelation, is something that has brought to me today. I actually was emailing Pastor Mello some things. Haven't really heard much back from him, but I know he's a busy man. I don't know how he felt about some of the things that I said. I know that one of the issues that many of the Congo people in Congo, especially the Bantu people, have issues with is the people who talk about the Native Americans. And because I'm a history teacher, or was a history teacher, I kind of have a little bit of more insight on how there's some misunderstandings because of, they talk about whether we were mistreated by the Native Americans, and I'll get into that because there's a history of that. And the thing is that I kind of was wondering about that because Bantus have mistreated each other too. We can see that here in the hood, where they're shooting one another, and even in Congo where they're killing one another. One of the things that and I do have some Tokoista music in the background. It's pretty good music to dance to. I like it. I'm going to be quoting from the book of Jasher, and the reason why I'm going to be doing that book today is because it's going to give a little bit of clarity as to why I'm trying to help people understand that, as Paul said, we prophesy in part, we know in part, we prophesy in part. No one knows the whole picture, and this is me putting the pieces together of the puzzle that the Most High has helped me to do that because of the fact that we are on this side of the world. We do know that the images have been changed over here too. There's been mockery of Native Americans just as much as there's been mockery of the Bantu people, and I'll explain why. I know through a revelation that the Most High showed me months ago that the sons of Noah's land was divided when the earth was actually one continent. And I'm going to get into how Hollywood, and I'm going to try not to make this too long because I know Pastor Mello, he said my last video was 3 hours. He's going to try to check it out. But I'm going to show you how Hollywood actually tells a lot of truth about Bantus that even many Bantus don't know, that the Masons actually tell you a lot of things that are truthful, even though the Ashkenazi Jews kind of changed the complex of who the real Jews are, Hebrews are, and they changed they have to always answer to the false Messiah's interpretation and the devil as well, because Hollywood is all about the fallen angel himself and their allegiance to him. And One thing that I'm going to make extremely clear on something that many people don't know, and I'm pretty sure if Pastor Miller has his interaction with Simon Toko, among others, he'll be able to explain this because I have a very powerful Maliki over me, and that Maliki has actually revealed himself to my mother, and it was kind of weird because my mother kind of has a heart condition, so I'm sure that the reason why the Maliki revealed himself as my sister, even though my sister was way in New Jersey at the time, she knew that that couldn't be her, is because she didn't want to. Angel didn't want to frighten her when he left his message. And one of the things that I've always asked is for the Most High to reveal the angel, because I'll say that the reason why I know he has to be an archangel is because this archangel that I'm going to mention to you, because I actually, to my Most High finally said, look it up, because I said, who's the archangel of protection? And sure enough, Google said his name is Gabriel. Gabriel is the archangel of protection. And as you know, he's the one that goes throughout history. And we know the story about him and Mary, and his revelation and how he came to the Bantus in the past. And also other religions say he came to them too. But remember, there's a scripture that talks about it, and I think it's Timothy, angel of light, where it says the devil he said, I think it was Peter, I think. My apologies. Even it says, and no marvel. I think it says it, John. One second here. I know it's the end. Let me see. My apologies. I know it says, and no marvel, for even the Satan comes as an angel of light. And one of the things that I know is that if you've ever got into the book of Enoch, Enoch gives the name of the angel that deceives Esau. And you know what's funny? I'll get into it here in a minute, but he deceives Eve or Esau, and the angel that he gave was Gadriel. Now, if you look at the name Gadriel and Gabriel, they have similarities. And now that I realize that, because the devil, I'll say this too, I know that there's been a lot of people that attacked Simon Toko and did what they did to him. And it's been kind of a miraculous thing for me, because this angel that has been with me has kept me from being even damaged to any point of anywhere near death. When there's been attempts, even, when walking away, no scratches, because my mom, and I didn't, the sad part about it is I've always thought that my parents didn't think Jesus was black until I had a conversation with my mom, and she says, yeah, I was always raised to believe that he was black. And that probably explains why she kind of has a better relationship with him than my dad, even though Christianity's kind of twisted it, because my dad was raised Methodist and she's raised Moravian, and Moravian is the closest you get to original Bantu culture, because they actually do fasting and praying. They do the first fruit harvest thing that they do. And they have a little bit different take on it, but they still worship, on Sunday. And they kind of have I truly believe that they believe more so that Jesus was black. And so that's one of the things why I think this was why the angel was able to answer my mom's request, because she's internalized the proper Messiah. And she's kind of been more open to what I'm saying in my dad, because she knows that the false Messiah, the real Messiah, was mostly black. And unfortunately, though, because of the Methodist influence, she kind of doesn't quite see it. And I also know, and this is the honest to God truth, and I'm pretty sure she knows this, but my dad never pried. But it's also because she knows my grandfather was a Mason. And I realize that now because as I learned, he couldn't. I know in the United States, you cannot be in a position of leadership without being affiliated with Masons. And the people that he interacted with were in fact Masons, especially Oppenheimer, 33rd degree. And I remember him telling the story about how, and this is how I know and I'm adopted, but my family has a pretty good history because my great grandfather, he helped overthrow the Dutch from the Caribbean. So I know they didn't take it very good, and they actually, this is why they probably sided with the United States once slavery was over there to get them involved to take back that land, and they bought them because even I think the queen of the queen of Dutch that my grandfather had to welcome, or I can't remember what her name was, but anyway, let me get into this real quick. I know that I apologize. My scripture memory is not always the greatest. I read my book. I try to find the scriptures as best I can. This is usually why I use it. I don't use the handheld book, but I do the electronic one because you can do references to letters and names. But I want to say this is a huge revelation about something because I actually mentioned this to Pastor Mello. Because in his book, I had asked him a question about the 8-pointed star and the dove, and he mentioned, he talked about it as a nah. Well, I've been doing the Most High said, they still don't get the whole picture sometimes because they're not over here and they're not scattered like all the other people, and unfortunately, the emphasis is Bantu. When a lot of us don't realize that our scattered brothers had that or Bantu or Bakongo have had that name removed several times. That many of us, because of course, he gave the northern tribes amnesia. So even though they're practicing some of the proper how should I say proper ceremonial things, they didn't know. They were worshiping the gods of wood and stone, just like he said. So all the other tribes that they're around, they were replacing him with those gods, but they were still kind of like what happened with us in Christianity. Even though we know who the real God is, we were still indoctrinated. They still call it their Sabbath, but it's a different day. Anyway, so I want to get into the book of Jasher. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm going to make a connection to where we are. A lot of people are confused as to what's going on with this coronavirus, especially our own people, which the Most High said there really shouldn't be any confusion because these are the plagues of Egypt. We're in Kamata. Okay. And I remember saying to a pastor that I used to go to a church to, he was an evangelical Christian. And I remember I was starting to come out and into the truth. And I remember saying to him, the whole world is Egypt. He said, Brother Bailey, you got it right. And knowing that he's a Masonic pastor, it brought the whole context of Kamata into play. Now we know Kamata is where we are, the scattered tribes that are supposed to be, incarcerated for 400 years, like Pastor Mello said. But you got to remember, our flag flies everywhere. The United States flag flies in every country, even Russia. Why is that? Because the dragon, as he mentioned, even with Russia, the eagle masquerades, the dragon masquerades as an eagle too. And we know that from Second Ezra, because it talks about how the eagle goes and conquers the whole world with 3 heads. And it comes down to the end. It's one eagle with one head, and the lion warns that eagle, which is why they took that book out, because the Masons, their symbol is a two-headed eagle. And they tell about that story about how they have the choice between a turkey and an eagle, and they picked the eagle. Well, it doesn't make sense. We know we picked the eagle because they're that last eagle. Okay. One of the things I learned about Freemasonry is they always got to come up with a story to hide their involvement with the fallen ones. And so I'm going to get into Jasher because it's going to give clarity to what we're dealing with. Because we got to remember, before Abana, our father Abraham, every one of Noah's descendants except for Shem, because he was alive. Remember, he was alive still. And this is one of the reasons why they won't. I know why they won't put Joshua in the Bible, because one of the things you're going to realize is Nimrod is an immortal. They don't make that. They don't want you to see that, which is why things happened to him the way they did, because of his mother, and because everybody was looking like, wait a minute, Nimrod was king when Abana was born, and then he was still king when Abana was dead and Esau cut his head off. Okay. So that's one of the things that people would have been like, how old was Nimrod? Okay. Also, and why didn't he die? Why does he have the longevity like the ancient days, like our ancestors before the flood? Another thing is that it showed that how he was defeated, and the false Messiah never wants to look weak. So I'll get into that. Now, I want to make very clear when I do this, I respect everybody's view. Like Brother Chilombo says, anybody who wants to say where Israel is fine too. Anybody who wants to claim Hebrews is fine. I'm not going to discriminate against that. What I will say is that we are waking up to a revelation of ourselves, and it's going to show you a lot of people who might be confused why the world is having this problem. Now, I've been fortunate, and I know this is how I know I have a very powerful Maliki, because, and like other brothers will say the same thing, because a lot of the stuff we're putting on social media should have been taken down several times over. And the fact that it hasn't been says that there's obviously, they don't have permission to do it. Because like I've always told people in this world, the Most High, he rules over all, and nobody can do anything without his authority or permission. And so that's sorry, I just heard a song that I wanted to copy. It came from Mikhail Massa. Oh, by the way, Sammy, Mikhail Massa, I forgot you that I was on his he was on his channel, and I liked it because for those of you that don't know, Kaiso, or the West African Kaiso, the music you hear in a lot of Bakongo people and Congo type beats and music, is very high popular in Caribbean, and became the soca, which I know now is called soca genie, in down in South Africa, that they said mixed with the Latin, but I said no, something didn't sound right, and they've added a Latin tune to it, but it sounds a lot like still like the African Caribbean mix. But it's similar step movements. We've lost a lot of our movement in the Caribbean because from the African and the Bantu style because of our disconnect, and I'm gonna get into why. You can't say that a certain group is not Bantu and one group isn't Bantu, because just to give you a prime example, all the Bantus here in America don't know Kikongo anymore at all. And so any group of us that are scattered would lose our Kikongo with any interaction that we do. So that's why you may there's no, when I looked at Pastor Melo's Kikongo, there's, you can see where a lot of our Kikongo is in English, some of our Kikongo, but at the same time, English is a 100% trap language created by the Illuminati, and they know that because they put they put so many demons in it, it's not even funny. People say the names of demons and don't even know. This is why we stay blinded. So, anyway, um, forgive me for saying too much. I'm just trying to keep my train of thought because I know I get a little bit off base. So I'm going to get into the book of Joshua, and one of the things I'm going to say when I get into that is that it's going to kind of get clarity because of what happened before and after. Actually, you know what? Before I get into that, let me read Genesis because this is very important. Let's go to Genesis 6, and I'm going to start at verse 1. And it came to be, and I'm reading from for those of you, I'm reading from the Hallelujah Scriptures. I know this is the more modern one, and I know Johnny actually said that this is kind of modified from the older one. So, and I'll put the Bantu names the best I can in here, but it's going to have a little bit different from what you might read in the King James and others. But so it starts where it says, "And it came to be when men began to increase on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of Elimo," which we know, so the sons of Elimo, we know who those are, the Maliki, okay, "saw the daughters of men, that they were good, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose." Now, what I will say is one of the things that doesn't really specify this, but we know this because of Enoch, and I think Joshua kind of goes into it, and there's also a book called the Apocalypse of Adam and Eve, and we know that these Malekis came to the seed of Cain because the seed of Seth at this time, if you remember from those that know the truth, because this is not specified, a lot of Christians don't know this because only Bantu history is what we really know about the truth, is Seth's offspring was kept away from Cain's offspring until Jared. That's when the devil actually came to Jared. And I'm gonna get into, that's one of the reasons why the guy who's next to Trump is called Jared Kushner, because Jared is when the devil merged all the seed of Cain and Seth during Enoch's time, and then what I was gonna say is that Kushner, of course, because the false Messiah is the son of Cush, as I'm gonna get into, and it says here, "They took wives themselves of all whom they chose. And Tatanzambi said, My Moanda shall now strive with mankind forever and is going astray." Okay, so forever. So this, in his flesh and his days shall be 120 years. So this is kind of where the Mosai is getting a little upset, and he's going to start shortening. This is our lifespan somewhat for those that are, especially those that are wicked. "And the Nephilim were on the earth on those days, and also afterward." Now, like I said, we know that Cain was the serpent seed, and I have done some studying and recall. I know Pastor Mello might know this. I don't know if Simeon Toko is gonna confirm this, but one of the things in one of the scriptures that people don't understand is that Cain was not Adam's son. And this is one of the reasons why, and then people are looking at me like, wait a second, what? Because one of the things that happened, if you've ever seen, right, if you go into the first book of Adam and Eve and the second book of Adam and Eve, the devil tricks Eve to pretend that he's Adam. And when Adam was out, he was out doing something, and he showed up. and she laid with the devil and conceived Cain. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why people don't quite understand why Cain was not favored by the Most High because of his offering, and why he seemed a little jealous when he should have had the same kind of heart as Adam and Eve. Was because he was already he already had the devil's son in him. He was already the Antichrist spirit. So what basically took place from there, and this is why when he slew his brother, he was sorrowful, but it's because he was still Eve's blood, but he knew that anyone coming after would want to kill him because of that, because he had done something wicked. And that's why the Most High marked him that no one would touch him, because um, he was afraid of being touched for what he did, because the Most High was going to be the one to judge Cain and no one else. So essentially his offspring from then on, this is why Seth's offspring never mixed with Cain's offspring, had the serpent in them. And this is why they started to become evil. And so one of the things that happened was now people want to say, "Oh, that's not scripture. That you're changing scripture. You're going off course. You're evil. You're a wicked man." Da, da, da. And one of the things we as Bantu people know, and I'm going to tell you this right off the bat. Okay, the Bantus wrote the scrolls, the Tula, as they call it, not the Torah, but the Tula. The Ashkenazi Jews have the other scrolls. The Catholic Church took the scrolls and they formulated their version of what they felt was right. Now, I know there were different sects of Christianity at the time, and people would say, "Oh, there's the nice, the Essenes, and there's the we call them the people who they claim that the Gnostics and all this." And what you don't understand is that they still have the scrolls. They made, and they're teaching it in different versions. And what it was is the Catholic Church decided, well, this is how we're going to do it as a whole. We're going to put it all together like this. And this is why the Most High is trying to show human beings that this is why it's called the doctrine of demons that's being taught, because you have men deciding what's going to be taught and saying it's him, and he never said that it was okay to break that up. And so the interpretation of what you read in today's scripture, this is the brainwashing effect of what the false Messiah did this to us, is that those who think that they're following the Messiah in truth are meant to believe that because they serve those in power that have to deceive you, because they know that they're not really serving the Most High. They're serving, when they say God bless America or God bless this country, they could be any God. And they know that you don't know, but they tricked you because, oh, you're Christians, and so it's got to be the creator of the earth. And that's why he's looking at, and one of the reasons why you don't know this is because of the strong delusion. In 2 Thessalonians, that happened long time ago. It happened after the Bafundi, the disciples, started to be destroyed, and Rome started to infiltrate I call them the Abantu Banduela, the people of the way, and started to attach. And I'm not sure Pastor Melohimi, I know Simeon Toko probably is aware of this, but they still use the name Jesus Christ. But the name actually Christos came from Nimrod's name before even the real Messiah was born, because they called him Helios Christos. And if you know, he's the statue. That's that statue that has the 4 horses and the dude with the brightest sun, and he's in a chariot, and he's on the Greek, he's on the Roman and Greek architecture during the time before. That's one of the things why a lot of people don't know that there were people called Christians before the people of the way were incorporated into that because they were actually worshiping Nimrod, and I'll get into that. But and that's what Mithras is to. And I hate to be saying his name because I know you're not supposed to. You're supposed to not form him. And forgive me, Tatan Zombie. But it's to help you understand um, where we have been manipulated in so many ways because you don't know where you're standing and you don't know how the manipulation started. You don't understand. There's a reason why they have to teach that all races come from the Most High, because they have to hide the fact that those who are elite powers know that's fake. And I'm going to get into that. So this is where we go. So remember, it says here, the Nephilim who were on the earth those days, and also after, when the sons of Elimo came into the daughters of men, and they bore children of them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of name. And Jehovah saw, and I know people say giants. The thing about it is, they were able to make variations of people. They always put the word giants in there because they want you to always think that, but they don't realize they also changed skin color when this happened. Okay, and the Book of Enoch, one of the reasons why I truly believe why they don't like to go by it or why people try to question it is because it says there was no such thing as white people until the angels came, because Noah did not look like Lamech, and he demonstrated he was like a blonde-haired, blue-eyed child. But at the same time, he had hair like regular black people, but he was an albino-looking person. He lit up, he's white skinned. He wasn't. That's why Lamech was like, "This is my child." I don't think so. So he went to Methuselah like, "Are you sure this is my child?" He said, "Yeah." And he told him he did this to hide him because at the time, if you remember, because the men were so wicked, they were killing each other. The ones that were made through the fallen angels were really doing damage, as he would call it, because he cried out, and by him looking like them, it was easier for him to hide himself, and they didn't, unfortunately, like that movie Noah they made, that's how that's Oscar. Now that's what I'm saying. They really tell the story wrong, and that's why people say, how is Tubal Cain on this? When Tubal Cain was killed by Lamech, and they did it the opposite. Tubal Cain killed Lamech. And actually, Tubal Cain was killed by Lamech because he tricked him into killing Cain, which, nobody was supposed to kill Cain, and that's why he got upset and clapped his hands, and Tubal Cain fell dead. But this is how Hollywood, because you don't know the story, they want to make it look all. They messed it up all kind of ways. Now, the one thing they did talk about the Watchers, and this is the part that made me so funny, is the one they were dragging away was Lucifer, Azazel as he was known, because it said, bind the Azazel hand and foot. That's what they were doing when they were dragging him, and they were showing that portion, but yet he acted like he was the good guy. And then at the end it said, "Oh, the Creator brings us home." No, in the Enoch it said, "No, he went. They went before him," and they was like, "I don't think so. Y'all not coming back anywhere," because they wanted to make you think the fallen angels had gone home, and that was the whole purpose of that, so that you didn't think that they were having any influence anymore. That's how they like to hide themselves. But anyway, it says, "And saw the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every inclination of thoughts of his heart was only evil and continually. And Tatanzami was sorry that he had made man on earth, and he was grieved in his heart." So, this is the thing that had happened, where only the descendants of Seth were the great people, the only people that were doing okay, even though they weren't perfect. But then, Enoch, he was found favor of the Most High. He taught his people the right way, and then he got taken up. And the only people that was left that the Most High, and that's why, in the movie when they said no one's heard from him since he marked Cain, well, that's because he didn't talk to Cain's side. Okay, he talked to Seth's side, because they were the only ones doing the right stuff. Um, then so no, but when they all came together because of Jared, the only one left that was pretty decent was Noah's family because all of them were twisted at that time, and that's one of the reasons why they were the only people saved. Now, we have to remember, and this is the thing that people don't understand about spirituality, is okay. So the flood happened, but those spirits don't disappear just because the Most High destroyed the world. So when it says after that, I'm gonna get into what happened and what was going on that made the Most High get upset. Okay, so remember Noah came out, and here's a big deception about, and the Most High revealed this to me. And the sad part about it, like I told you, Hollywood, the Masons will tell you some of the truth within the lie. So if you remember from the movie Noah that they made, it shows you Pangea, that the continents were one. Okay, well they didn't break apart after the flood. Okay, and that's why, one of the things I'm gonna say about science, and I know, Pastor Mello, he made this clear in his book that we really don't know based upon Bantu spirituality how long the days were. The Ashkenazi Jews has kind of, modified some of that, and it's the truth that there's probably a lot more. It's probably been longer than what we've been told. However, one of the things that's very clear is that they actually covered this up. What's his name? Sir Isaac Newton actually came up with a theory that things happened a lot faster, and they actually had a movie called the Genesis Project that proved this. That they were able to show that things happened a lot faster than what modern science will say. But of course, one of the things that us in the truth know that modern science comes from alchemy, and alchemy comes from Babylon. It's all 100% the teachings of the Babylonian Empire, and we know that a lot of the teachings they got were from these fallen angels and Anakim and all this, because that's what Nimrod worship, and this is what I'm going to get into. And so this is when it happened afterward. Okay, so it says here, this is our father. Okay, this is Joshua chapter 9, and this is in verse 8. And it says, and Terah, for those of you who don't remember, Terah is Abraham's father, Abram's father. Abana. Had 12 gods of large size made of wood and stone after the 12 months of the year. Sound familiar? Okay, they're doing this now. This is why they changed. That's why the scripture says that from Solomon, there's nothing new under the sun. So the 12 months this is another reason why Joshua is not in the book, because then you'd be like, wait a minute, aren't we're doing the same thing now? Okay, yeah, we're doing the same thing now. So if you go through the Greek calendar or the Roman calendar, and you look at the names of the months. Okay, this is why I'm trying to tell you that the beast system has been in place for a long time, and we're coming to the end of it as far as the Most High bringing his people out, as we know. And this is going to show you the after part. So remember, so Noah came out of the ark, his family came out of the ark, everything was started over. However, we had the curse of Canaan, which of course they lied because they said he was playing the dark man when, first of all of Noah's family was black. And Japheth was light skinned like me, probably a little bit lighter. Shem was the complexion of a Michael Jordan type, and Ham was they call him Ham because he was dark, burnt dark. That's why you do. And if you ever think I'm lying to you, why do you think you call cooked pork ham? Okay, because you burn it to make it dark. You have to bake it. You have to burn it. Okay, so Ham, as we know, the Hamites were actually really dark. But we've been taught that all black people come from Ham, when that's a deception because not all dark people are the complexion that Ham was. Ham is like as black as a black pair of shoes. Almost some people are. And so the curse of Canaan was actually, and this is why you'll hear, people don't even tell you why they mistreat albinos in Africa. Okay, it's because it was the opposite. the curse of Canaan was the albinos. Okay, one of the things that scientists have been able to prove, um, and I'm gonna actually tell you some things here on YouTube, and this is why I'm hoping. I've actually mentioned some of this stuff on Twitter. I actually showed my dad some of this, and I'm gonna go into a revelation the Most High showed me about the balls. We know who they are, the Anakim. You know, I've actually seen people show me pictures of the different Anakim and who they represent. I'm going to go into the Isle of the Gentile revelation that was given to me once again. So I might have said it in a previous video, but I'm going to show you why they say baby comes from storks. Okay, that is not truly false, and I'm going to tell you why it's not truly false. Why they say baby come from storks. Okay, so it says here, and Terah had 12 gods of large size made of wood and stone. Remember, our fathers were made to worship gods of wood and stone in the future. And after the 12 months of the year, and he served each one monthly, and every month Terah would bring his meat offering, drink offering to his gods. Thus did Terah all the days. Now here's what I'm going to share with you. And this is where it's going to make the Bantu awakening even greater. And I thank my sister on Twitter because she brought back the calendar, original calendar, the Bantu calendar, and the months and the weeks. And Johnny John had a hand in this. The whole point is, okay, if you recognize as a Bantu the Roman calendar, you're doing exactly what Terah is doing. And what Albana was doing at the time when he was there. Because they're doing it over again. Because this is the thing I'm trying to tell you. All of this comes from Nimrod. Because he's the one that started this. This is why the Most High was not pleased with him. Okay? This is why when Abraham said this is wrong and he went to face him, I'm going to get into that, why he was ticked off and he actually sentenced him to death. And I'm going to show you where they lied about where crucifixion started because there's the cross that they're putting in the churches is the cross that the Babylonians used. And it was through his son Tammuz. That was his cross that he put down to crucify people in Babylon. Okay? All right. So, and all the generation. So it says, and all that generation were wicked in the sight of the Tatanzambi, and thus said that made every man his god, but they forsook Tatanzambi who had created them. Okay. So here we go again. We had the flood. We're here in Babylon. This is the book of Jasher. Okay, this is Babylon. And here we are with Noah's sons. Remember now at this time, it's going to tell you, I think I got to get to it. It's going to say that this is when the world was at one language. And I know in the movie 10,000 BC, the men were kind of, that language, I don't know if it was Kikongo. I know because I know Pastor Mello said the one language should have been Kikongo. Okay. Now, I don't know if that language that they're speaking was a modified version of Kikongo in the movie 10,000 BC, but that language apparently was supposed to be the language that was spoken from that movie from when the earth was one. Because see, people don't understand these demons are still around, so they teach the old languages to their followers. So in Hollywood, they know what language the Babylonians were speaking and the whole world was speaking during that time because they interact. This is where they do their rituals. If you know anything about the Illuminati and the Freemasons, they do a lot of rituals to talk to these dead gods. And these dead gods tell them, well, this is the language that the scriptures are talking about. And, Kikongo is where everything came from. Okay. But the one language that they were speaking is whatever that language was called in ancient Babylon, because this is what Nimrod forced us to speak. Now, I don't know what it's officially called, but this is what I'm saying. So, it says here, and there was not a man found in those days in the whole earth who knew Tatanzambi. Okay, so it's like, whoa, wait a second. No man knew Tatanzambi Yamazulu. Okay, not nobody. So here we go again, that we just came out of a flood, and here we go. For they serve each man his own God, except Noah. Now, except Noah and his household. Now, see, Noah wasn't dead yet when Babylon was built. So it tells you kind of how old he was, and neither was Sammy, neither was Japheth, and neither was Ham. They weren't dead yet. Okay, but the problem with Ham, and this is kind of how things got going. If you ever read that book about Abraham, you know, they were weaker. Japheth and Ham were weaker because, you know, they didn't agree with the curse of, they got upset. I don't know, I can't really speculate, but they were not happy with that curse of Canaan. Okay, because remember, especially Ham, and so when these angels came back, they looked for weaknesses, okay, and they looked for ways to get themselves back in place. Now, they probably were still teaching the right stuff to their children, but their children started to get weak, especially Ashkenaz, because remember, that's where the Ashkenazi Jews come from. So remember now, Nimrod now has risen out of whose line? Cush, who was Ham's son. So Cushite, all the Ham's children were already starting to mess up, including Canaan. Okay? So was Japheth's children. Shem, and the thing about it is, so were Shem's children, even our Pakshan, who we come from, that lineage, the Bantu. Okay? And it's like, whoa, how did this happen? And I'm going to get into that here in a minute, because this is going to give you an understanding of why the world is so messed up, and the people who are responsible for that, and we know this, are the Kongo people, the Bantu, because when the Most High separated us, because I'm not full Bantu, as you can see, I'm not full Bantu. I'm gonna tell you how I know that I'm stronger than Nimrod, because my grandfather mixed in me, and even I'm adopted. I don't know my adopted history, but the Most High has made this revelation that I am a descendant of Esau. And I'm going to show you where Esau was killed. He was more strong. He was stronger than Nimrod. He was stronger than his army. Okay, and that's why I'm trying to tell the Bantu people, one of the things that's so foolish about us in our ways is we threw away. We were more powerful than Esau. Okay, and we threw away that that privilege. And now you're going to see why, why our Creator was so upset, and why so many things happened to us, and why these other nations are teaching us the wrong version of our own laws. Because every one of the descendants of Noah's children, plus the ones that are not even humans, the clones. Okay, human is actually, if you ever look up the word human, it comes from man, which is really Muntu, as we know in the Congo, of the darker persuasion. Hue. But they applied it to even the ones with no hue. Hue actually means the level of color, the melanin, the melanated skin. Okay? So the humans were the children of Noah. But the ones who are not, you can see, remember the angels came and did it before and after? The ones that are after had to trick people into thinking they were also humans. All right, so let's get into this. And there was not, and it says and Abram, the son of Terah, was waxing great in those days in the house of Noah, and no man knew it, and Tatanzami was with him. So he was starting to already, our father was like, man, And this is why the Most High said this is kind of what helps break us out into this awakening. We're doing what's bringing us back to our memory as we're becoming like Abana now, where we're saying, okay, and he's touching us. This is how the spirits come out. He's touching us saying, something ain't right. Something's not. This stuff they're teaching us, something's not right about it. Okay? And that's where Yaoundé, because Judah never lost their memory. That's why, one of the things that I was really, listen to the Hebrew Israelites, and I know some of the stuff, and I know why some of the stuff they say is true, because people don't even understand that there's actually two different factions of Hebrew Israelites. There's the ones that wear the Star of David, which we know that how that works, and there's the ones that don't, which is where you get the Issachar couple, myself, who were calling ourselves the Hebrew before we met about the Bantu awakening. We were saying, okay, there's a lot of us out there, and unfortunately, I hope more figure this out. Because I know the lady I watched a lady from Open Diary, and she's very awakened, but she doesn't know about the Bantu connection because she don't talk about it. She puts the Hebrew Israelites here in their place and how they think. And so in the same way with myself, it's like, especially that chart, I questioned that chart too, because I was like, how do you know that? Where does this come from? Okay. Because if we're scattered all over the earth, just like he said, then how is the chart only in the the so-called Western Hemisphere? Because those of us who are really awakened know we're on a Bumandala, and even the reason why it's called a Bumandala is because the people who worship the Indian gods showed them the true earth. They know, and people don't even realize that people in Hindu, they don't believe the globe. They forced to believe the globe. Okay? And that's the sad part, like the Most High said, every religion has a portion of the truth. But you have to take the truth out of it. And there was a guy who was I can't remember his name, the guy that does the Lion of Israel. He did a video on the real earth. And the guy who was talking, it was funny, he looked like he had the glow to him when he was explaining the Bumandala. And it was showing how there's a half-truth to our planet where we do have a crust and a mantle, but the earth, the land itself sits on like a cut apart orange. So if you take a orange and you cut it in half and you stick the continents on top, but you have the mantle below, okay? And the part that spins, because NASA does tell some of the truth, even though they're full liars, because the name NASA means, we've seen that it means deceive in Hebrew with their acronym. The part that spins is the ozone. There's an ozone, that's where we get the electromagnetic he was talking about. And then there's a land outside of that portion. This is where actually, they try to say and they do this all the time. They act like the person escaped and lied and released some stuff online, and nothing comes out online. The Masons don't allow proof because they knew that there was a time they'd say that they got to tell the truth. So the map of the UN is correct, where the Earth is flat, and they actually had a pastor that I was listening to. I can't remember his name. He was doing, and I think the Masons were letting him say this because he said he found documentation online where NASA revealed the testing of aircraft is usually, and is classified, is when they make our airplanes are actually designed to withstand a flat, immovable surface. And I know that Mosai even showed me this because I took pilot training, and he says they put it in your face, and this is why I knew that I couldn't go any further in pilot training without becoming a Mason, because they're going to show you why you have what they call a horizon on the airplane, and the horizon is always up in the air. It's flat, okay. And when I went on, the thing that tripped me out is I think this is how I know we're under the delusion and the spell of the false Messiah and his mother and these other witches that serve them, is they have a harder time keeping it I don't know if you've ever paid attention. I went on a cruise one day for my parents' anniversary, and the reason why there was two reasons why, because I didn't know if we were going to make it, and it was funny because they were renewing their vows, but they got married, they got a honeymoon on the island of Curacao. It's funny that the Most High wanted me to go there for a reason. Okay, first of all, the one thing He wanted me to show me is the moon and the sun. Because one of the things that happens when they're out to sea, and this is where I learned they're lying about something, because as you head towards the southern, what they call the south equator, the southern hemisphere, something strange happens with the sun and the moon. It doesn't follow the ship anymore. You know how when you're on the highway and you're driving and you're looking out and you see the sun and the moon following you as you're going down the road. Well, when we got down to Aruba, we were going that way. I said, why is the sun and the moon behind us? And it hasn't followed us since. I said, this is weird. And I think it's because of the amount, because I know the pyramids, one of the Most High showed me that the pyramids keep the delusion in place, but it's harder for them to keep it in place on the water. So this is how I knew that Columbus, he lied big time about when he said that the ships, they dropped down below the horizon. I even had a brother try to tell me that he saw a picture from Mount Everest. He said, no, I don't want to see anybody say the world is around now. But they use a fisheye lens in the picture. And people don't realize NASA does the same thing. But the world is round, but it's like what, and this is where they tell you the truth. From a Bantu perspective, is that, and this is where, I feel sorry for her, because I know she's trying to fight the system. Lauryn Hill, when she did her movie, her show, her thing, Everything is Everything, and I know Chilumbo, he followed hip hop, and he talked a lot about how the Bantus were part of it. And I've seen, a lot of revelations about our history being in the music industry and why they use us. It's a record player. Everything is everything. And what she was actually showing you is the world is like a turntable. It spins just like that. It doesn't, it's kind of like, it's immovable. The earth, in scripture says the earth was without movement. It sits, but the point is, it's not. It's the Bumandala, the energy thing, and this is why you actually see videos where scientists are using equipment that defy gravity, and this is why they're lying about how they learned how to do it from the fallen angels, because once they know, and I think, and Pastor Mel, I'm sure he knows this because Simon Toko showed him, and the Maliki know this, that they don't want you to become spiritual, because you'll be like the Abafunde and you can defy like the X-Men. You can defy, because once you realize that where your surface is not real, as it's being portrayed to you. And I'm getting to that point where I'm trying to get my spirituality up. You start, and that's, of course, the one thing, and this is why I hate it. And I told this I think I mentioned this to Jonathan, I think it was on Jonathan's side of this, that one of the things the Masons did is the earth gives off energy, okay? And there's a way to tap into the energy. Now, that's like what happened with Daniel when he was in Babylon. When the Maliki tried to get out, he said the Malikis, they try to stop him. That's the way it is here in America. You got Malikis that are not good, trying to stop the ones that are helping the ones. And this is where my Maliki, this is how I know mine is pretty powerful. Got to be Gabriel, because the fact that I'll even tell you my story a little bit, and I'll get back into this. I've exposed so many things about the false Messiah. And if you've ever seen the movie Omen, you know what happens when he reveal him. You die. Okay, I've even been warned from people that have received the power, like the brother who had the. He said he had all 600 fallen angels following him on Twitter, and he was showing me, his house literally got. Um, and this is what I was going to tell, Pastor Mello about this. This guy, I think he must have found a way. They must have found a way to kill him because he said that his house literally got bombed and it bounced off of his house. This is the Maliki calls it to bounce. This is the power that we have. And they were shocked, and they actually, the one report, it happened in South Carolina, and one of the things that the military said is that, we had a nuclear missile fall out of one of our planes. Well, one day, I was sitting in my house. Now, I didn't see it. He must have really thwarted it or something, that it didn't become obvious, but my house shook. Because I know we live by Fort Carson and they do the firing and everything, and but this one here, it was like kaboom. I mean, it was literally like the way they shot it from was around the corner. And my house, I was like boom. I kind of bounced a little bit. It was like a bounce, but it was like, wow, my house just shook. So what are they shooting at? And it was like, no, I deflected. He showed, he revealed it to me. No, they tried to kill me. I reflected it. And this is why I was saying, we got some power. I mean, here in Kamata, because the Most High wants me to be a part of this awakening, and He knows He wants me to be exposing, like it says, have no part in evil, would expose it. Sorry, I have a hard time quoting scripture. I just remember what it says. I don't know the exact scripture. I apologize. But he said, you're a watchman. You're going to be, he said, I'll just give you an example of what I'm talking about. So this is how, I remember Pastor Mello saying the dragon was coming after Simon Toko and the things that did to him. And this is where it talks about the scripture where, and this is how I can relate to the dragon coming after the offspring of the people. But there are those that the Most High still protects. And I don't guess I'm one of them, because here's a certain thing. My mother was a heroin addict. Okay, heroin is supposed to have, and I know I kind of have I learned now that my chemical imbalance that I actually do have does not actually come from the heroin, now that I'm learning more about vaccines. Okay. So the heroin, this is how the devil's trying to get me. He tried to get me with heroin. Now, it's funny, my mom was 16 years old. Okay. This is kind of alright. So I was telling Pastor Mello this when I was talking to him. It said I said it's funny how the Messiah and Simon Tolkien kind of have some similarities, because, but here's what happened to me in this time was, this is how I know, man, Gabriel, the Most High put a really powerful angel on me, because he's tried to kill me with heroin. Okay. I could have been aborted, but she gave me up for adoption because she was 16 and she didn't want nothing to do with me. My father was Army, my grandfather. Now, I know they put vaccines in you. Okay, so one of the things that they learned as I was getting older, I started to have a chemical imbalance. Well, one of the things that these jokers in this country have done on purpose is to create anxiety through different ways, especially when it comes to people who are descendants of Yokubi. They've done, various experiments on us. And because my grandfather, I'm thinking he had to have been a Mason, because when I look at the way my mother was treated, ran away, the fact that, he hit her because he cheated on his wife. So I had some demons pass through me to me from him. And, my father was older than her. He was mixed like me. He's mixed and she was mixed. So I guess, and that's why that's why I'm also saying you got your Kubi on both sides and Esau and Edom on the other side. But what happened was, I was adopted. My mother, who adopted me's name is Mary, which is really strange. I know my father's Robert. when I look at the circumstances that as I grew up, I was pretty, I'll tell you one thing, this is going to tell, my dad actually thought I was dead. I was kind of hard-headed, because, Bantu people, and especially with all the mix I have, are pretty hard-headed. I ran into a solid wood, old church table. I mean, this thing, I was running and I hit it full speed. And I even had to take a picture because all I had was a black eye. And they thought I was like, I killed myself because it was a hard hit. The table was solid wood. It was like an old table. And then then nothing happened. Another time I stumbled down the stairs at my house and my mom was she was peeling potatoes, I think, or something. And when she went to catch me, it was with the knife out. So the knife actually went in and it didn't even penetrate, which was a shocker because it went in and kind of touched me and didn't come out. So another thing that happened, I was hard-headed again. I had one of those double swing set things and it broke off and the piece of metal was hanging in this, where the Most High kind of showed me. When I fell back, I should have cracked my head I should have busted my head on the railroad ties that were behind me. Okay, as I'll tell you, I mean, these demons, they've been coming for me for a while. And one of them, the major stumbling block that kind of made me really mad, that I know the Masons kind of set up because my dad wasn't even aware of it, that they kind of know, this is how you can tell they kind of have foresight with some of these demons, was the addiction to, my pornography. I have a problem with that. And I'm trying to, been working to fight. I mean, now that I know the demon that I've been fighting with in this awakening, and even, I didn't even realize that, Christianity, how it says the demon, the scripture where he talks about, they asked him, why couldn't we cast that demon out? And he said, because you don't have enough faith. Well, in Christianity, they don't have any power like we have it with spirituality. So the strongest demon that fights you, they can't really cast them out. When I hear about people recovering from a lot of these addictions, one of the things that I know that kind of happens with that is you start tithing to the false Messiah. And the Most High showed me that. And one of the ways you get rid of things is you got to tithe. And then the demons will back off because he still controls. He's Satan's son, so he controls a lot of what they do. Now the Most High he'll jump in and he'll help. You seek him and he'll definitely do some things, and people be like, wow, I'm not saying that he don't have a hand in that, because he does have a hand in a lot of things. Because he still knows that we're the Church of Laodicea, that we have half of the truth and half of not the truth in many of the Christian churches. And so the problem with me was there were people that were put in my path on purpose to make me stumble. And my dad actually was the one that finally said if I had known, I would have done things differently. Because he didn't know that these people were doing it. And it was like, this is the thing that, we're in Kamata, because he don't know how the Masons operate. That they knew who I was, which is why, even when I went into the Air Force, and most like tried to apply for the Air Force, most like, you're not going in the Air Force, because I'm going to show you why. And my dad, he was upset because he's ex-military. That's how he got to Colorado. And the most I was going to say, he showed me that the reason why that most Bantus don't even know this is they pick you to go in the military to fight other Bantus. That's why most of America's enemies, if you actually look at where they attack now, is where you'll find descendants of Abana. Okay? And people, what totally blew me away, and this is going to tell you how deceived we are about Vietnam and where the scattered Hebrews are. This is what the Most High showed me. And this is how I say you gotta You gotta be careful how we're saying who's not a Bantu and who's not a Bantu, because he said everywhere that Rome sent, because if people don't understand it, and this is the truth, the militaries of the world, even if you want to say China or whatnot, because they're part of the dragon too, are ran by Lucifer. And I know people gonna be like, wait a minute, I'm a Christian, I don't serve no military, no Lucifer. I said the reason you're not gonna, I'm gonna tell you who's gonna believe you, but will never tell you are the generals. They might come and say, oh no, he's not right. But they won't ever come out and just be like, oh no, he's lying. They know, the Masons know, okay, in order to be that level, you got to be above a 33rd degree Freemason, because generals are going to see things that, and generals and even high, full-bird colonels even sometimes, generals and admirals and all these high-level officers are going to be dealing face-to-face with Anakin. I kid you not. They deal face-to-face with Anakin. So they know where their technology comes from. They know how you get your weapons. Okay? They know why you go to war. And your job is to do what? Follow orders. They know why that building is in the shape of a pentagon. Okay? So before you go off and start saying, I'm in the military and I know I'm a follower of Christ and this, no. They're not going to tell you from the Masonic side, okay, and I'm going to get into that. This is why you live in Kamata. This is why you live in why we say Babylon, okay? Because this is the same thing that happened in Babylon is happening now, okay? All right, and Tatanzami gave Abana or Ebam an understanding heart and knew all the works of that generation were vain, and that all their gods were vain and were of no avail. And Abana saw the sun shining upon the earth, and Abana said unto himself, surely now this sun that shines upon the earth, and I will serve. It's God, and I will serve. Now remember, I believe I made a video. We talk about, I know Pastor Miller made it in his book, he said Simo is light. And the light that separated the earth from the dark was affiliated with Simo. Okay? So this is kind of weird because in Bantu understanding, we know that the Most High made the light. Okay, but my revelation is that light is part of the Messiah. But now let's get into that. He's gonna say, and he said, and him I will serve. And Abana served the sun in that day, and he prayed to him, and even came to the sun and set. And usually Abana said to him, surely this cannot be God. So now we're wondering, okay, so the Most High set the sun up above the earth. He separated them, okay? But he's saying, well, we know it's Simo and Bakongo, but he's saying it's not the Most High, though. So what I'm trying to tell you, and this is exactly where Christianity gets it wrong, where Islam gets it wrong, and where especially Judaism gets it way wrong, okay? You serve Tatanzambi, Yamazulu, the Most High, Kongo. Now we know that, and I'm sure Simon Toko is aware of this, just like Pastor Mello. Yissa'Yah, and this is Johnny John even said this. Everything was done in the name of the Father. He even said, I came in the name of the Father. Tatanzambi, Kongo. Okay? That's why Yehovah ben Yehovah, and there was a guy, Yahweh ben Yahweh, was a guy who called himself the Messiah here in Florida. I think I mentioned this before, who called himself Yahweh ben Yahweh and telling his followers as a Hebrew Israelite, I am the one the world has been waiting for. And the Most High was showing me he's taking the real Messiah's title, faking people out, telling them he's the Messiah. Now, why did he have the power that he had? Because Nimrod likes that. So he's going to help you deceive. So he'll use his power or his mother's power to make things go away. Like you have the power of the Messiah. He's one of the tricks that he does. Okay? Remember, the false Messiah can do. Remember what happened? This is how Kamata would happen with Masa. When the Most High, he had no Masa throw the stick down and it became a snake, and the Egyptians did the same thing. That's the false Messiah. That's ISIS or ISHTAR. Okay, doing it too. That's why they say God is a woman. So, but the one thing she cannot do, or the Most High, and her husband, we know was God wrong, cannot do, is what? Raise the dead, as Simon Toko demonstrated. Okay, he has no power over the death. So when he killed when all those Egyptians died, those people couldn't raise them back up to make them come back to life, because they didn't have that kind of power to really kill like that. Kill every firstborn. They're like, whoa, we can't do that. We don't have that authority. Okay? Because the Most High is the only one that has power over the dead. Now, of course, at this time, the devil still had the keys, but he still has to obey whom? Tatanzambi. Okay? Alright. And Abana still continued to speak with himself, who is he who made the heavens and the earth? Who created upon the earth? Where is he? So remember, Abana doesn't know, because he was raised by Torah, he don't know Tatanzambi Yamazu. Okay? And of course he ain't with Noah, and because Noah knows who he is, but he's with him, all the men are serving Nimrod in Babylon. He brought everyone to build the tower. And he said, and night darkened over him. He lifted up his eyes toward the east, north, south, west, north, south, and east, and saw that the sun had vanished from the earth, and they became dark. And Abana saw the stars and the moon before him, and said, surely this is the Most High, who created the whole earth as well as men. And behold, these servants and gods around him. And Abana served the moon and prayed to it all that night. Now, for those of you who know about Islam and and where we get the moon goddess from, this is where you get Nimrod's mother. Okay, we know that she's affiliated with that worship. Okay, and the morning was light, and in the morning when it was light, the sun shone upon the earth. Abana saw that all the things that Tapazami had made upon the earth. And Abana said to himself, surely these are not gods that made the earth, because see, Istar didn't make the earth. Okay, so she can't answer the prayers that he was asking. Because remember, she is an Anakim. Okay, this is Nimrod. We know this is why he's immortal. People don't understand is that for those that don't know the history of Nimrod, and this is one of the reasons why the Most High got upset with Cush, is he married a demon. Okay, he did exactly what the women did. They don't tell you this because they worship these gods. This is why they keep it out of the scriptures, because this is why Nimrod was immortal and had certain strengths, because his mother was an Anakim, one of the spirit people. Okay, and Cush wasn't supposed to mess with them, but he did anyway. With his, that's why this is why he's different from his brother. The wife that Cush had, made other children, but he had an encounter. That's why if you notice, you'll see all of Cush's children, and then Nimrod comes out of nowhere in the Bible. Well, it's like because his mom, his other brothers, and him are not identical. That's why they say he came renowned and mighty in the earth. Well, how did he got all the people to come in? Well, the only way he could do that was through the power that he had received to demonstrate through his mother. Okay. And Abana said to himself, surely these are not gods that made the earth and all mankind, but these are the servants of God. And Abana remained in the house of Noah and knew. So now he's in the house of Noah, and he said, knew Tatanzam. So he's interacting with Noah now, and he says he knew Tatanzambi and his ways and served Tatanzambi all the days of life, and all the forgot the Tatanzambi and served other gods of Windsor and Bel in those days. So now he goes and talks to Noah, his grandfather. Noah, who is this God? So he knows something ain't right. So he already went in, and as you'll hear later, and see here it says, and King Nimrod reigned securely, and all this earth was under his control, and all the earth was one tongue in the words of union. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together. Now here you go. This father's going to be part of this. Put Mitzrayim, which we know is Kamata, Cush, Canaan, and their families, and they said to each other, come, let us build ourselves a city and a strong tower. And so these are all descendants of Ham. So they're the ones initiating the overthrow of Tatanzambi Yamazu. Which, of course, people don't even know this because this book is not in this is the one they left out. Okay? And the evil of our enemies may cease from us, and it says, and make ourselves so that we may reign in the whole earth in the order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us. So obviously, they had evil happening. They have enemies among the brothers, but you also got to remember there's something that's happening in the Isle of the Gentiles around this time too. Okay, if you remember your scriptures, and this is what's hidden is. This is when one of the balls is doing something. Now the enlightened ones, the Illuminati, they know one of the main reasons why they came to America was to find Atlantis. And many people know the story of Atlantis, some of the mysteries and what, but they kind of think it's a mystery because one of the things they don't want, especially white people, to know is this is how the genetics of the Mosai's people started to change. And this is where you get your variations in skin color. So your preacher will stand up on Sunday and he'll say, oh, the Mosai created all these different races and look how beautiful we are and da-da-da-da. But yet all of Noah's children were dark-skinned or black people. Okay, they don't want you to know that because then you're going to say, well, then how did you get the other races? Well, it comes from, they throw it in your face on TV and on cartoons. You see the stork come into the house with the baby and you're like, the stork, and the people started thinking and said, oh, that's just a tale that we tell so that we don't have to tell our kids about where babies come from. No, the reason why they put that stork in the cartoon is because of the Egyptian god that had the stork face. And he is affiliated with Atlantis and what they call the Tablets of Destiny, which is allegedly what the fallen angels used in the old days to alter the Mosai's creation and make him mad. And if you even see that some of that writing, it looks alien on the tablet. It resembles the Paleo Hebrew, but it's a little bit different. And one of the things that it talks about on this in Atlantis is, and if you're going to see this symbol everywhere, his name in the Babylonian was Nergal. I'm just going to spell it. You could say it if you want to. And his symbol get this. You'll see it everywhere here in America. You'll probably see it everywhere around the world. The two snakes spinning around with wing, and is a pole with two snakes and wings. Sometimes you'll get the one snake, which is the duality is the snake that Massa put up so that the poison so they honor. See, what they're doing is they're mocking what Massa did, and they're telling you. And this is where this is why I was actually looking at something that this people put up where the Rockefellers purposefully got rid of herbal treatments so that they could create big farm. So a lot of the medication, they know it comes from. There was a book. It's actually called because Noah. This is in the book of Adam where it says that the Most High gave Noah to fend off from these demons that were attacking his children. He gave him a book of healing, a book of remedies. Okay, so the Ashkenazi Jews are in possession of this book of remedies. So what they run big farm, right? So everything that they devise, medicine-wise, is based off of that book, but they don't give you the complete treatment. They make it to where you got to keep coming back for it because it doesn't completely heal you. It makes your body, and what it's actually designed to do in this program, and most people don't even know this, it makes your body lazy to not do its job so that you always think you need help. When the Most High actually put ways to heal ourselves. This is why when they went to Africa and they started testing all these things, this is where the dragon plays a role in this. You know, this is why they use Congo as the testing ground because that's where the strongest people on the earth are. They know that. The most powerful, but most of them don't know it themselves. This is Tatanzami's people, and they go to Congo to see how it's going to respond to the other Bantus that are scattered. They don't get, and I'm going to tell y'all right now, this is the honest to God truth. I'm sorry if you don't like it, but the elites don't care, don't give a two bad. They call this, above our government. You think your government cares about you? You're called sheeple by the Illuminati. Okay, so everybody else except they want to make Yaoundé like the sheeple. That's everything is targeted for the real Hebrew. That is why you got a descendant of Ashkenaz calling himself the Jews, the Most High's people, because that way it throws off the scent of who you are. That's why you got the Ethiopians saying the same thing, even though they were from what happened with Philip. You know, that we're the chosen people. Well, it's some truth to that because there's Bantus mixed in there, but because of the mixing of the different tribes, but they're not and that's why I was saying about the Amharic, that America's name is throwing the Most High's language in our face because it was the Bantu language was called Aramaic, like Johnny John was saying, but they claim it's Assyrian so that you don't know that it's the Bakongo people's language. And the derivative of that the Ethiopians spoke is Amharic. And the Moors, who are really actually responsible for the United States, America. They called it America. They put an A on the end and changed one of the letters. But of course, as Europeans go, they're like, oh no, we can't spell it like that. We got to they changed it up. So they said America because they got to use the European sounding. But then of course, people don't know Amerigo Vespucci, another Mason. This is how they do things. They come up with a story so that you don't catch on. Oh, we're putting it in the Bantu's face because they know that there was Bantus here. That's what I'm trying to say. The word Indian was a way to incorporate the tribes of Ham and Shem that were mixed in with some of the Bakongo people that did actually Bantus that came, so that that's why the tribes the tribes get upset. I mean, if you want to insult somebody that's a Native American, I mean, they don't get as pissed as they used to, but calling them an Indian was like, you nigger. I mean, literally. They're like, nah, I'm Lakota. What are you talking about? I'm not. They had names just like it's just like when you go to call. You say like Salombo said, I'm a Maluba. I'm not a. I'm not a Chaluba. I'm a Maluba. It's kind of like the same type. And then when the white people call you're all Africans, and you're like, I'm not an African. I'm a Bantu. It's kind of that same thing, but you just kind of take it because it's like, whatever. So it's why Native Americans like, okay, whatever. We Native Americans, we Indian, whatever. Kind of like when they call black people African Americans, we're like, damn, we don't even know about, they're kind of like whatever. Black, when they said that actually came from Malcolm X. He started calling us African Americans as a way of showing us we came from the Bantu people. That we weren't black no more. But people are like, I'll just stick with black. But we weren't black. So it's kind of like that, some people will still say, are you a Negro? That's what Spanish people will say. Even in South America. Because the point is, the conditioning that has happened is we believe that through what the Masons and all these other secret societies have done to hide the identity of different groups. Okay? Because one of the biggest lies that they've taught about the Native Americans in this world, and this is actually like I told in the last video where they got upset with Mel Gibson about that movie Apocalypto, because the Native Americans that he killed, those people killed, were not, they didn't have all the piercings and all that other stuff in their face, and they said, no, we didn't look like that, and that's kind of make you wonder, well, they were more Shemite looking than Hamite, because of course the reason why they look lighter is because of the Spaniards coming over and the Ashkenazi connection. But they were like, no, we didn't do that. And that's like, they got mad because it's like, you killing, I don't know who those look. They put the piercings in them to hide the fact. I tell you, Mel Gibson, being an Ashkenazi Jew, okay, I'm telling y'all, he knows where the Bantus are because he's a Mason. And he's an Ashkenazi Jew. So they know who they're mocking. And that's why I try to tell people, man, you can't, the Ashkenazi Jews know who the Bantus are. Because they work with the false Messiah. So wherever Rome went and conquered people, yes, they included, you have to understand, this is how the Masons operated so smoothly. History kind of, they made up a lot of these historical stories because they didn't have a lot, even the Moors will tell you, this is how a lot of American history is made up. He says the Moors already had an interaction with the indigenous people. And they knew that they had brought Bantus over here in their slave trade, the Muslim slave trade. Okay? And this is why they make up these stories. Some of the Native Americans, that the reason why they were able to do what they did is they gave them the sign. They use hand signals. And they know what's hand signal to do because everybody that worked, like the sun god that was here, that Abana was worshiping, everybody knows the hand signs of Nimrod. So all these every one of these gods that went to these different, they worship in different cultures. There's signals, hand signs that you use to say, I worship the sun, I worship the same gods you do. Oh, okay. You're one of our brothers then. So that's why, a lot of the things that they put on the media and the Masons are involved with it because the devil controls it. They don't tell you that a lot of these. I was talking to my professor. I know why she flunked me when I said Judeo-Christian can't read the Bible, because she knew, because she was Native American. She said, no, I know now she flunked me because she knew who wrote the Bible, the Bantu people. And she's Native American. She flunked me. Okay, and so what happened was when you know she even said that I had a conversation with her. Like she's in the car, she's like, "Yeah," she said, "I'm pretty sure that people who came over on the Mayflower were shocked to see that there were Native Americans with blonde hair." And I was like, "Oh, really?" Because the way I told you, the Masons been coming over, and they were actually being, like the Vikings and all that, and they were all coming over prepping this land. And I'm gonna say to you this: when Kamata, and I know Pastor Mello said 1619, and I agree with that in the 400 years. Kamata was established when Spain, France, and England owned North America because they were all Masons. The wars, I taught this history, okay? That's why I even said who really burned down the White House, because I think a Maliki did that, okay? That was a part of this because the Masons was like, why are they gonna burn down their own house when we know that the British had Masons, the French had Masons, the Spaniards had Masons? How did they burn down their own house? And they said they blamed it on the British because all the history is, because the whole point about it is what you weren't there. So in the 19 there's actually they show this is an Illuminati card called History in the trash can. Okay, they did that to show you that they hid a lot about history. They knew that the first president was black, but they couldn't tell you that because he was a Moor, and they had to hide it from the Bantus. Okay, they knew the next couple three, and they know George Washington was number 9. But see, the point is they don't gonna tell you how they changed history because they wrote it. And the fault because they keep and I'll tell you the movie that showed you that they've been dealing with the fallen angels all along. Transformers. Transformers is telling you about the war. Cybertron is Zion, the Most High. This is what they actually Quintessa. The one that used Quintessa was supposed to mimic um, they actually that was supposed to be an evil version of the Mwanda and Sammy. Okay, and they were. I keep telling my wife. I said the Decepticons are really supposed to be the good Malekis, following orders to destroy the Earth, like the Most High wants to get rid of the wickedness, and the Autobots, because they're fewer. Remember that Nimrod. I mean, the fallen angels are less than the Most High's Malekis. Are the ones trying to say, no, we're going to protect this planet and they can do whatever they want and they have every right and be like the good guys. You see, this is how they twist it. And that's how I knew even when they told you the truth about the Challenger accident was in that movie. Because they said when they shot down the space shuttle, they said, well, we were never in it. And then people were showing the stories about how the Challenger blew up and then they see these people alive today. And they call it the Mandela effect. It was like, wait a minute, how? And they're trying to say, dude, one person, there was a Mason that I was listening to, he said, the space shuttle don't ever go to outer space. It actually goes out of sight and then they land it somewhere. But when you see them coming home is when they show you the landing of when it came back. But they It's one of their test. It's their test footage, and they make it look like when they actually launched it from somewhere and they have it landing, but they didn't tell you that coming back like it's coming home. And he said that that's why it goes up in an arc because it goes across he said it's because we never go through the firmament. And that should show you that they lying because he said, oh, they don't, that space shuttle don't ever go through the firmament. They said it goes at an arc. And this is a guy that was talking to a preacher, and the thing tried to keep cutting out because he was trying to tell him the truth about even the yoga and all this. I know they don't always tell the truth, but he was even saying the truth about dinosaurs. And like, they got them. He started talking about how he had them in Florida. And what was so funny was right after he said that in the video, that big freeze hit Florida. It was knocking the iguanas out of the trees. And I was thinking, I said, I wonder why if they did that so they could move the dinosaurs out because they froze them so they could move them so they could because he gave away a secret. But anyway, and that's what I'm trying to tell you, man. These jokers play a lot of games on people, even with our history. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's like you can't go off. I mean, I know what's the car, and there's actually a book now called 2 Million Years Ago. They said there's a lot of history about Bantus and that. I want to get into it. And the book we found about Bantus in the Americas and how they label things. And one of the things that I was going to tell Issachar, I'm like, not all Native Americans label things the way he was saying. Not to disagree with him. I love the brother. He did a lot. But I was like, I actually met a Cherokee. He carried a card just like he was in the tribe. And this brother was black. I mean, I'm sitting there looking at him like, what? How can you be Native American? You blacker than me. Like, yeah, that's what it was. We really black. I was like, what? And then I remember I met this lady who was light skinned, and her husband is a Bantu descendant. He's black. He actually, when I told him about this truth, this is how I know he's a Mason, because when I started to tell him about this truth, and he was at the church I was at, all our connections cease. And I said that's the part that sucks because our own people are nothing. And his wife, just to show you this, okay, there are Native American tribes that are Freemasons. His wife is an Eastern Star, and she's light skinned, and she told me, she was like, I said, wow, you look black. She says, yeah, we were black. I'm just mixed. My mom was a little bit whiter, but yeah, we're really black. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, we really black people, but we just, she said that. And she's not one of the Hebrew Israelites, none of that. She's like, yeah, we were dark skinned. And that was because of what happened with the settlers, and that's why when I watched the end of the Buffalo Soldiers movie, and the sort of Mwanda and Sammy really got me, because I forgot that he let them go, because he was gonna mow down all the Apache, and he did. He went back, and I said, the Most High stepped in there and didn't let them kill all those Apaches like they were supposed to. And this is why in the movie Geronimo, now you see the white people going after them because the black people stopped. And you gotta wonder, why did the Bantu who were Buffalo Soldiers all of a sudden say, we're not gonna mow down these Apaches like this, when they're women, children, and it was like, but they're not gonna tell you the whole truth. And that's why I'm trying to tell people, I'm like, dude, in the Hopi prophecy, I've even talked to the people who know about it. They said the Messiah that showed up was black, with blue eyes, but he was black. And they said he showed them the future of America with all the modern technologies. And they were all marveling. They're like, oh no, don't marvel at that. That stuff is going to be killing people. That's why when you go to the desert Southwest, the Navajo and the Hopi live identical to how you found them They have some modernizations a little bit, but they live. And the thing that gets me is they know how to sheep herd. They're sheep herders, and they learned that before the colonizers got here. So people say, "Well, what? I thought the settlers brought the sheep." No, there were sheep here before. The Moors had them. They were sheep herders, and they actually do the looms and stuff, and the adobe houses and everything. The looms just look like the one in the Middle East. They've been doing that for the longest. And the sad part about it, they look like the people who you see in Tibet when you see them. It's like, what? How in the world do you look like them? But see, we got it, man. And that's what I was saying. Is like they doing the same. Cause I watched a movie where they did the one on the coming out of Egypt, the Prince of Egypt, and his wife was sitting there working on a loom, and I was like, the Navajo used that type of a loom, and the colonizers did not show them that, and that's why I was like, something, and that's why I say they sheep herders. They didn't hunt, they did hunt deer every so now and then, but they were sheep herders and farmers. Because remember, they're the Native Americans that showed the settlers how to do the corn and make the bread. Okay, and the bread was flat, no leaven. Okay, they didn't put leaven in their bread. The Navajo bread has no leaven in it. They didn't put that yeast in there, and they showed them how they cooked them in the stove and everything, and they made the pottery with the heated kiln because they do that here in America now. They do the pottery. They put that. And see, that's why I'm trying to tell people, man, these nations, they know who they came to conquer. Because when Kamata started was when all of the Roman put the top three, France, England, and Spain, but England became the dominant because that's where the queen, like queen and the king and them, they the dominant. That's why they became the dominant because the Anakim favored England, especially Rothschild. Okay, and so let me get into this some more. So then, this is where it said, this is what happened. This is one of the reasons I'm gonna tell you about Pangea. This is how I know the land was together. What sunk Atlantis was the fall of the tower. The Most High showed me that. He said, Nimrod was making you worship all these other gods, and of course they were making these other people in Atlantis the clones. Okay, that's where George Lucas gets his idea about the island where they made the clones. It comes from Atlantis. That's why he got that on his movie. That's why you see they go out to that island and they call it a different but remember it's on water. This is how I'm trying to tell you. It's on water when he goes to see the clones. And the thing about it is the Most High said that's simulating Atlantis. And the dude, the person that they use for those clone makers resemble the Anakin. That's why they look like that. Okay. So then, so let's get into this part right here. So we get into where I'm gonna go down to where it talks about they're building the tower. And it says 28, and behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day, the brick they should fall within their hands. And I'm going to get to where they built the tower in the cities, verse 31, and they did this thing daily until many days and years elapsed. So it took years to build Nimrod's tower, and I'm going to show you why, because I think this is where it says, And Tatanzami said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near him, saying, "Come, let us descend and confuse their tongues. Then one shall not understand the language of his neighbor." And they did so unto them. So this is, of course, what they got the one language, even though they could Congo. Now, of course, we're going to know that he kept, obviously, Abana's language, tongue, because this is what we were speaking after that. Okay, and from that day they forgot each other's name, and they could not understand to speak. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone that he did not order, the builder was cast away and thrown upon his neighbor that it would die. So when they were building the tower and the entanglement got confused, they started actually they wouldn't fall they weren't making any sense. So they started killing themselves because they couldn't understand. So it stopped the building of the tower because they couldn't communicate. And they did as many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. So a lot of people died on the tower from miscommunication because they couldn't understand. They were asking for something, and they gave them something else, and it killed them. And Tatanzambi smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, "We will ascend to the heavens and serve our gods," become like apes and elephants. And those who said, "We will smite the heaven with arrows," the Tatanzambi killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, "We will ascend to the heaven and fight against him," and Tatanzambi scattered them throughout the earth. Now, basically, there's people. I think I was talking to a Muslim person. They said there's a story about the tower, and it says that people fell into the sea and drowned. They were flying everywhere when they did this. And somehow they landed and didn't die, so they could tell it was some pretty big people. So this happened. Now, one of the things I read in here, it says that this tower took 9 days to walk around, and only a third of it was left after it came out. So part of the mountain ranges somewhere in Kush is part of that tower, and the rest of it was in Saudi Arabia is the part that fell. So because they built it from Kush to it spanned from Kush to Saudi Arabia, because remember I told you this is where the Red Sea or the Sea of Reasons now they call it. It actually didn't exist. It opened up because the tower fell. So now what I'm going to say is this is where they started to get scattered. It says the sons of Japheth, this is chapter 11, and it's verse 6. And the sons of Japheth, the son of Noah, went and built themselves cities in the places where they were scattered, and they called their cities after their names. So now you see where we know who started naming cities. A lot of them were the Japheth, okay? And then it says, let me see here. Let me get into this here. Sorry. So now it goes in, and the children of Ham were Cush, Matram, or Kamata, Put, or Canaan, according to their generations, and they went and built themselves cities and found a place fit for them, and they called their cities after their names, their fathers, Cush, Mesram, Put, and Canaan. Now, one of the things, this is actually what they actually show in the research of the black faces in South America and the ancient temples, is foot. Now, I don't know if some of these went all the way over there. So Canaan, Ham had some people go to South America because, and I'll tell you why, because when the Most High scattered them, the continents were still together. And then when he knocked down the tower, everything, because he knew they were going to keep trying. Remember, he says this is the beginning of what they will do in the book of Genesis. And at this time, because the white people had already started to become prevalent. Well, when Atlantis sunk, because the separation caused the city. And this is why they'll tell you, oh, they made a mistake or whatever. We don't know why Atlantis sunk. No, they know why it sunk because the Most High got upset because he saw what they were doing. They were taking the geneticism of his people and making these different people. And that's who they do to that. They were doing it to the balls, to the Anakim. And then, of course, the fallen angel, the one that Nimrod worked. I'm going to tell you right now, you say his name, you say Lucifer's name another way in English. And people don't even know this. It's ANU. Or even if you say NEW or NEWS, this is what you get. People don't understand. That is the God, that is Nimrod's father, spiritual father. Okay? The wife, and his mother is the wife, or the harlot, the whore. Okay? And these gods continue to, they go around the earth changing their names, but they're the same gods. So, how does this play into the Bantu people is when, I gotta find it. I was hoping to find it because there's going to be an encounter between Nimrod and Abana because he broke apart the gods. Okay, so yeah, it says here in chapter 7, Joshua chapter 11, verse 17. Abana said, as the Tatanzami liveth, these images shall not remain in my father's house, so shall the Tatanzami who created me do unto me, even in 3 days' time. I do not break them all. And Abana went from them, and his anger burned within him. And Abana hastened and went from the chambers of his father's outer court, and found it for 7. And so what he had done was he had broken all the images, just like we get told by the Most High. Anytime you encounter them, you smash them, because that's what he did. Now, this is where Terah gets so upset because of what he did. And the funny thing about it is he takes him, because remember, at this time Nimrod was the law, him and his court. So anybody that didn't follow his laws, you were punished, and one of the punishments was crucifixion. Okay. So Terah finds his idol broken. So let me go to where he's. I'm going to show you why we're having the problems that we're having. This is where, we talk about the book of Revelation where the dragon's chasing us, but you're going to see why we sent our Savior to be crucified when we said we have no king but Caesar. Because Caesar was serving Helios Christos, or the other gods. So basically what we had done is we crucified our Savior to accept the false one. And that's why we lost our place. So here they go. This is the conversation between, this is when they're calling him the king. Okay. And Terah, this is 50. And Terah, seeing all that Abana had done, hastened to go from his house and went to the king and came before Nimrod and stood before him and bowed down to the king. Now remember, Most High said we weren't ever supposed to have no king but him when we asked for ours, and you know, and what happened with us with King Saul. And now you got Nimrod, who was the king of the world. Okay, and the king said, what dost thou want? And he said, I beseech thee, my lord. Why we say the word Lord? Okay, who does Lord refer to? To hear me. Now, 50 years back, a child was born to, and this is where he was going to get mad because he thought Abana was dead. If you don't know the book of Joshua, when Abana was born, he was supposed to be given to be killed, but Terah gave him another child. And this is when he's going to find out he was betrayed. Now, 50 years back, a child was born to me, and thus he be done to my gods, thus be spoken. And now, therefore, my Lord and King, send for him that he may come before thee and judge him according to the law, that we may be delivered from his evil. Okay, remember he broke apart the stuff. And the king sent 3 men of his servants. They went and brought forth Abana before the king. And Nimrod and all his princes and servants were that day sitting before him, and Terah sat also before them. And the king said to Abram, what is thou that hast done to thy father and to his gods? And Abram answered, the king Abana, and the words that he spoke to us, the large God that was with him in the house, did to them what thou hast heard. And the king said to Abram, have they power to speak and eat to do as thou hast said? And Abana answered the king, saying, if there be no power in them. See, now this is when he's arguing with Nimrod about his foolishness. He's saying, if there be no power in them, why dost thou serve them and cause the sons of men to err through thy follies? So he's saying to Nimrod, why are you worshiping these gods? When you should know you forgot the real one. So he's saying, how can you do this to us? You're the one, because he's the one that forced us. And remember why, okay? Dost thou imagine that they can deliver thee or do anything small or great that thou shouldst serve them? And why wilt thou not sense the Tatanzambi of the whole universe who created thee and whose power is to kill and keep alive? Okay? And this is where, this is where he really gets into Nimrod and tells him, O foolish, simple, and ignorant king, woe, which we know now means destruction, unto thee forever. Okay, so imagine Nimrod's a big dude, giant. People know he was humongous. And I remember because in the part of the Joshua talks about he's wearing Adam's clothes. So him and Adam the same size, and Adam was a really big dude. And he's saying, I though thou wouldest teach thy servants the upright way, but thou hast not done this, but this filled the whole earth, and with thy zonos or sins and sins of the people who have followed thy ways. Okay, so he's breaking it down. We came out of the flood. We shouldn't have been doing this. And it says, when Abana had ceased speaking before the king and princes, Abana lifted up his eyes to the heavens and said, Tatanzambi Yamazulu, Tatanzambi seeth all the wicked, and he will judge them. So now we go to chapter 13. So of course Nimrod, he thinks he's king, God, whatever you want to call him. He's like, I'm not going to take this. So he said, and when the king heard the words of Abana, he ordered to be put into prison, and Abana was 10 days in prison. And at the end of those days, the king ordered that all the king, princes, and governors of different provinces and sages should come before him, and before him and Abraham still in the house of confinement. So this is where they're deciding, and this is where I know his son, and I'm thinking Tammuz was, or had to have been, well no, he's not, Tammuz came after this because he was not born yet. because he doesn't get born until after Nimrod dies. But so Nimrod is the one that actually started crucifixion. Now, this is going to trip you out. Book of Joshua, chapter 12. And this is going to lead you into what would happen to our Messiah. It said, he's talking to his kings and everybody says, and they all answered the king, saying, the man who reviled the king should be hanged upon a tree. But having done all these things, he said, and having despised our God, we must therefore be burned to death. For this is the law in this matter. Now, if you go to Nebuchadnezzar, what you're going to see is he was following these laws when Babylon came back. After, Nimrod died, Tammuz died, Babylon lost its power. And, they go to try to kill him, and then the angel of the Maliki shows up and protects Ebana, and he's like, whoa, we can't. And because of the lie, he had a brother that got thrown in with him, the Torah, because he was supposed to die. And his brother died instantly, but he's walking around in the fire. So see, that's what I'm trying to show people, man. This is why they won't show this book to the Bantu people. Because I'm telling you, man, Abana had a Maliki. A Maliki came, just like they did to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He was burning, he was in the fire. All of his things burnt off, all the bands, but his apparel, everything was safe. And that fire was so hot that when Nimrod sent the people to go get him, they couldn't even get close. They had to ask him to come out. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So you see, the reason why the Katanzambi wants me to talk about this is because, I'll kid you not, I had the devil try to kill me personally. I ain't gonna lie to you, man, when they say those antidepressants that you take, drugs, my dad didn't want me to put me on drugs, but I was mad because now I know who talked them into it. Because they wanted they knew they wanted me to commit suicide. Because all his friends were like, no, it's okay, you should try it. It would help. And actually there were natural ways that he didn't know about that I could have done that could have not started with the medication. And man, they gave me the doctor. This is how I know the doctor that gave it to me had to have been a Mason. Because this stuff made my head hurt. And one of the things they learned about antidepressant drugs is it makes you suicidal more. It calms you down, but then it gives you suicidal thoughts, and it did to me. And this is where I knew the Masons were trying to kill me now because I was saved from hell. Okay, and this is when the Most High revealed to me that I was supposed to start waking up people about the deception. However, at this time, I didn't know any Bantus. I didn't know anything about this awakening, so I was trying to do it, what the stuff I knew. But people would look at me like, what's wrong with you? You crazy. And this actually happened on the day before Oklahoma City, and that's how I know that the McVeigh and his brother, or whoever they did it, they didn't do that. It was actually a cover-up for something they were trying to hide about the real purpose of David Koresh. And, they claimed they had to be the people, but no, it was the beginning of the NWO's fear over us. And it was actually, as the Most High has revealed to me, this is one of the curses that is on America for not telling the Bantu people who we are. That we get all these, these school people don't understand these school shootings. or these shootings, because remember the police are beating up Bantu everywhere. The high rate of suicide among whites, the abortion that's rising among whites, the drug use, when all of a sudden now it became a problem for opioids, is because the Most High is bringing it back on them for not telling the truth and for killing the real Hebrews. And see, one of the biggest tricks that was done on Christians is, this is how you know the Masons had an agenda, because the people who were the Christians had a full belief they were believing in the correct God, the correct Messiah. They were actually, I was reading, I think it was the Puritans, that they had a inkling that the Messiah wasn't the one, the white one. Hence the reason why they started, they banished Christmas. They actually they were the ones that were really pushing for the freedom of the slaves. Especially with that Amistad. The Amistad, of course, we know is a lie because we know that dude was a Bantu. But they didn't want to tell you that in a real Hebrew. And that's why some of the stumps they were doing were Bantu related. But, they hid that aspect. And then this is actually where the Puritans, I think it was at that trial, is when the Puritans started to recognize who the Hebrews were. And this is when they started pushing for the abolition. Like the Most High, he put people in place, man. He knows this is Kamata, but he had people pushing for our freedom. Like, hey, these are, he's like, whoa, who we got in slavery? This is when they start saying, oh, wait a minute. These people acting more like the real Jews. Because, they saw the customs of what they were doing when they saw them in prison. They saw they looked like they were doing the Bible. And they were like, whoa. And this is the thing that happens, in our society is the biggest deception on us is when we were free. And this is the deception of the Emancipation Proclamation. We were supposed to go back to back to Congo. This is where the devil is slick, man. He when we came out, they didn't tell us. They didn't want us to know we were the real. So they can't. So this is when they started recruiting us to the Masons. Now, of course, they tell us another way, but they started recruiting us so that they could hide, because they knew that once we go home, the wealth goes with us. And this is why Tatan Zambi is saying, just like Master Mello said, they wouldn't reveal the truth about the third secret of Fatima, they wouldn't tell us either. And this is why you had all like the sinking of the Malakis. Like I said, they have to follow orders, so they sunk the how do you call it, the ship, the Titanic. You had World War One that ended after Simon Toko was born, but was part of that whole thing where they were being sacrificed to the false Messiah through deception, which of course they try to kill Bantus then, but it was because that war started because Russia, became the dragon, and they were being cursed for not revealing. So, I think the one thing that happened when they said the real reason why the stock market crashed in the 1930s is because what they did to the black stock market. And also it's because, they sent airplanes and crashed into it and burned down in Oklahoma. And of course, that is connected to what happened in Oklahoma City with the Merv federal building. Okay. So a lot of people don't understand that, this is where Americans in this country don't understand is when Pharaoh, our presidents, make life hard on the Bantu, the Most High come with a judgment. So it's been all through the time he's been saying, let these people go. And they keep telling him no. So then, like World War II, I learned the truth about why they killed the Ashkenazis in there, because it was getting them ready for what's coming here with the furnaces they built for the terrorists they're going to burn. What do you call it? The incident with the incident that happened with the Cuban Missile Crisis. I learned one of the things that happens in America is whenever they try to tell the truth about us, that's one of the real reasons they killed JFK, because he signed the document that helped the Bantus gain more freedom in Kamata. And then, this is one of the reasons why they killed King, because he realized that, because the point is, and I've learned this myself, you cannot tell the truth about these Masons. If you're one of them, you go too far, you go off script. Oh, you're done. Well, if you're not one of them, you go out. You can say whatever you want. Ain't nothing they could do to me, because I'm not part of them. And I'm revealing some things that they're like, man, they shouldn't be knowing this. But it's like the Most High is like, I want people to know this. Okay? That one of the things that's happening in the 60s, there was some Huey P. Newton, they said he was a Mason too, that a lot of the uprisings was because of what they call King Alfred. And so the King Alfred plan was to exterminate us. And they were going to do that by causing us to riot. Just kind of like this. In Egypt, they used to do the same thing with the gatekeepers. And this was giving them an excuse. This gives them an excuse to come into our neighborhood and kill us and do whatever. Well, of course, the Most High, it backfired, because then, they had the oil crisis. They had all kind of things happening to white people and the drugs killing them. And I even learned the truth. I said I'm going to tell you about the Bantu truth about Vietnam is Ho Chi Minh was a Mason. High level degree. So when they sent us to Vietnam, there's Bantus in Vietnam. Okay? I'm going to tell you how I know this. Because there's a guy who said that when the black people showed up in Vietnam, they got treated better than the whites, because they had images of gods that were black. Okay. Now I know this could be the Oscar, the balls, because I know they're dark skinned, originally dark skinned, but they also knew that the real that I was even, we say Leki in Kikongo or Bantu. Well, I have a friend, she's from Thailand, and her nickname is Lek, L-E-K. And that means like sister, or, sister, or, just a nickname. And I said, she has some features, because she got the wide feet, wide nose, but she lighter skin. I've seen the darker skin Thai people. And it's like, wow, I see the lady from Cambodia, well, she's dark. I was like, she's darker than me. But she had really curly hair, And the thing about it is that they know we're scattered throughout the earth, everywhere. Like the person I said in Suriname, they said they were waking up. The people in Suriname, they were waking up, and I met a lady who was Filipino who said, yeah, the stone language is in the Philippines. We've seen it. We know. Just to give you an example, I had an ex, and I know I've heard people use kili kili in the praises, and kili kili is a word used in the Philippines. No, they refer to it something different than how we praise, but that's what I was trying to say. That there's Congolese words around the world mixed in with the other languages, so you may not actually hear it right off the bat, but there's certain words that they'll like. I know, like when they made the connection that Hong Kong is from Congo. There's a Congo in it, and the Chinese got that, and they found out the same thing that the Japanese have a ship called Congo, there's a ship called Congo, and what they were saying, and the most I was trying to say is, yeah, because we're scattered, and one of the missions, and this is how you know Catholicism is not anywhere near good, and the Ashkenazi Jews are nowhere near. They went on purpose to erase the skin complexions of the darker skinned people. Because I was even listening to a dude that said that they lied about China, that a lot of the original Chinese were black, but the Mongolians made them, because remember, y'all fifth children, the Mongolians made them white. Okay? And I kind of believe that because when I watched that movie, The Wall, and it was funny because they were fighting reptilians in that movie. They were nasty reptilians, and they had the different colors for the different groups that did different things. And I was like, that looks similar to what the Bantu do. They wear the different colors for different reasons. And I was like, and then just to show my point, there was a movie I saw where they were trying to keep the dingaling of, Nimrod's dingaling with the obelisk and everything represent. These guys were like Malekis, I guess. And it was strange because they were Chinese people, but they were trying to keep away with, and they called the name, his Hindu name, to keep it away from him, his dingaling. These people, these guardians, they were taught, they were like, we're the keepers of this thing that was keeping it, they were playing keep away. And I think that's why they found it in China, because they lost it. And that's where, because they couldn't find, they had misplaced it. And I think that's how they finally figured out how to find where his thing, and because one of the things that they line about these wars that they keep sending our military for, they find they're trying to reestablish him. They're trying to bring him back. They've been trying to bring him back. And they couldn't, I actually listened to the story. I saw the story of how Tammuz was actually created. And this is going to tell you his father, how it worked. Because Nimrod was dead, got killed by Esau. His mother was the queen of Babylon, was going to get ousted by the people. She went to, I'm telling to show you that this is where you get, why, like John Sean was saying that the white people were called white devils, and they say the same thing in Africa. The god Anu, remember I said I knew who he is. In Egypt, his name was Anubis. I think I might have mentioned this before, but this is who helped. They called upon him. And Ishtar's brother is, like I said, is Nergal. This is where you're going to get your DNA helix. And because he did that. And this is why they're showing you. This is why they're trying to show the white people, the Masons are putting it in their face. They're like, nah, y'all don't come from the Most High. We know this. That's why you the terrorists. You look like them, but you're not them. And there's really no such thing as white people, because what he did was he figured out ways to to remove the melanin. Okay. doing these tablets that he had and on Atlantis, and this is why the Most High was getting mad because you're like, here we go again. They changed it. This is where you get a lot of the DNA changes in animals. This is why science had to come up with this whole concept of millions of years in evolution, even though Charles Darwin worshipped Nimrod. He was a Luciferian. He hated the Most High because his daughter died. And so he was going to set out to destroy the Most High for that. And so what happened was they created this concept of evolution to hide the Most High's creation on purpose. But they had to use the science from the alchemy to do it, that they were being taught from the Babylonian gods. So, how they, like I said, the time could still be what they say, but it's not as short as what the Ashkenazi tree do, but it's not as long as what scientists say. So there's a medium there. That's why even when I was telling my wife, I was telling my, it's not even really 2020. We're ahead. Then they know that. And realistically speaking, that's the fallen angel. The false messiah. He changed times and seasons so that you would think you got more time. So that's why a lot of Christians are freaking out right now, because according to scripture, some of the things haven't happened yet. So they're like, how can this be the end? What they don't realize is they tricked you into thinking you have more time when you've already gone through the scriptures. Because a lot of the things that have happened, they've already built. Like I know Chalombo was saying, but I know they already built the temple, because maybe he's the one that he might have been quoting me when he said that. I put it on there. I said, I know that they already built. Sorry, I know that they already built the temple, because there was a video that I was watching, and I wish I knew remember what it was, but he said that Trump helped Osiris build the temple, and I was like, and that was back in 2018. Okay, now those of us who are woke know who is the embodiment of Osiris is Obama. Okay, we know he's Nimrod and reincarnated. And I think a lot of people have talked about that. That's one of the reasons why he even joked when people kept calling him the Antichrist. He was like, oh, I'm going to bring the end of days. Well, he was joking because that's how they play it. When you know they're right, you can't say, well, yeah, you're right. Okay. That's why he said he'll be back. And that's why they play this game like him and Trump hate each other when they're on the same side. And all of them went to pray at that wall because they know what they're really doing is wicked. So one of their biggest keys, and I think Tatanzambi for this revelation Congo, is they knew the reason why the coronavirus kicked in is they knew the time was going to happen when the Bantu awakening would become so overwhelming that they had to try to make the last-ditch effort to stop it. This is like Pastor Mello said, they canceled his trip to California, and it was one of the states that got the coronavirus banned first, because there were the Hebrew, and see, this is what a lot of people understand. There are those that have realized that the Hebrew Israelites, especially after what happened with Bishop Nathaniel, there are many that said, oh, something's wrong. Because when they found out he was a Mason, putting black people in jail, they're like, oh, we got to get away from this dude. And there's other, groups that they found out that came out of One West. And that's why, some of the stuff that they say is true is because they're coming from the Masons revealing some of the truth. But that's why they're calling the Africans Hamites, is because that comes from them not wanting you to once again, and this is the same thing that why they killed Malcolm and why they kicked um, what's his name, Garvey out of the country is they don't want the Bantus to leave. And that is one of the reasons why, one of the main reasons why they're saying the black people, the Africans are Hamites to from the Hebrew Israelite camps, is because once Yakubi goes home, because the Ashkenazi Jews who taught them this, they know when Yakubi leaves, this is their country. They're in everything. So they know because of the fact that, because I remember how Esau came out of the yoke, and they forget that, the wealth still goes with Esau to a certain extent because of the blessing to Yissa'Yah. And the thing about it, though, even though the Most High was angry with him, this is why he's pretending to be Jacob, because, and he's wealthy because he's become the replacement. And the key is to this, and why they're saying this is because when the Bantu realize where Yisolele is, like we're trying to wake up, then that is the end of the age. And when I guess like Pastor Noah was saying, when the Messiah calls us out, and see, this is what I want to get into this about, in every captivity, we got sold as payment to other nations. So this is why you get Bantus scattered all over the world. That's in every captivity, and we got sold across the Atlantic by the Romans to Asia. When I remember there was remember one of the ways we got into China is because the Romans were cutting a deal with the Chinese, and they did a lot of export. Sorry, excuse me. With them, and what happened was, well, they used slave trade for work. So we were actually, Bantu people built the Great Wall, and they buried us in the thing when they did it. Even the enemies are trying to help, but Bantus were part of that too. And so what actually happened today in this time and age is that, and this is what's happening, is they're trying to stop or slow down the final, because they're trying to get everybody. So here's what's happening is they're trying to get everybody now grafted into the beast, so that when this event takes place, many Bantus will either be stuck and can't leave because they have the mark already, or they're not going to see, because like you said, it's a choice. And some of us are going to stay attached to the false Messiah and not come out of the harlot, where none of the rest of us will. And see, the thing about it is that is why when the Christians see, whoa, I thought we were leaving with the Messiah, that is when they have to swoop down and lock them down and really come after them, but they have to have everything set up. So the coronavirus is the means of them. That's why even when Governor Cuomo came out and said 900 people a day were getting it in New York, and my wife, because she works at a hospital, she's like, there's no way. He said those hospitals would be so overrun that you wouldn't even know what to do with them. Okay, and see, this is the whole point, is that, and this is why they want this cure to come on board so fast, because they want to get everybody whatever they're gonna do. Because I know they talk about they're gonna delete your channel from 5G. I don't, most are gonna protect me. I got that. They have a way, and see, the movie actually said this. They show you, like I said, they show you something. There's a signal that's going to make you mind erased. So what's going to happen is, and that's why the Most High was. I was listening to Al Bielek, the guy who was on the ship that went forward in time one day, and I wanted to listen to it because there was some. They know the Navy did it, but they tried to deny it. But like the Most High said, they never saw what happened with Yisolele and whatever, where we went, the Bantus, but they saw he came to America in the future, and it was damaged, and it wasn't the United States anymore. And this is actually, I know something's coming, because the time frame that the map he drew was between 2020 and 2025, and it was all jacked up. So what happened was, and this is in Trump's second term, likely, because this all rigged. But anyway, what happened was the man said, "Well, what happened?" And the people he was talking to said, "We don't know. We just know something bad happened." And this is what I'm trying to tell people about when the Most High said, when we get separated, that the people who go to out of Kamata to Yisolele will no longer have any memory of the people that stay with the beast. He meant it, because we're not going to have knowledge of our family anymore that we were with, because we're going to be with the real Messiah. Those that stay with the false Messiah are not going to have any knowledge of the real Messiah anymore, because they're going to be with the beast. Because what's going to happen is, and I know this is what's coming, and it's already starting to happen, is they hid those furnaces that one Mason was talking about. When they start gathering the people, you're going to get a choice. And I remember I listened to a preacher, he was talking about this, but he made it sound like if you denied the fake Messiah, you were going to go to the real Messiah, which a lot of people, they said, "Oh, we know you're not the real one, and we know who the real Messiah is." And the book of Revelation talks about the first resurrection. The first resurrection is actually, if you go to the book of Revelation, I'm gonna go to it now. And I read it, and I was like, people got it so wrong. Because now the Most High said the tares go first. And so, let's see. I think it was Revelations. Yeah, it's... Yeah, so here it is. It says, and I saw, this is Revelation 20:4. It says, I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was given to them, and the lives of those who had been beheaded because of the witnesses they bore to Yissa'Yah Kongo, and because of the word of Jehovah, who did not worship the beast nor his image, they did not receive his mark upon their foreheads or upon their hands, and they lived and reigned with Hamashiach, Jehovah, Yissa'Yah, for 1,000 years. So one of the things, I'm going to go back, because if you listen, it says, and they sat on, it said those it says those who had been beheaded. Now, this is where a lot of Bantu people got to get ready because, and I'm pretty sure there's other people too. They talk about how Obama, when he was president, in the Affordable Care Act that became Obamacare, he had ordered a bunch of guillotines. Okay. And there's people that have said they've actually seen it, and because nobody's going to read through his entire thing, but someone did, and they said, "Whoa, he ordered guillotines. What's that for?" Okay. Now, we as Bakongo people know the bride goes with the Messiah. Okay. There's going to be an option given to those when they go to collect. This is what I'm saying. They're going to when they realize who the Bantu people are, we go to Yissa'Yah. Okay, we go to back to Congo. We get taken out of Kamata. What's going to happen is these people here are going to be like, whoa, where'd they go? So now they're going to say, so they're going to take you. There were people that left, and I think they even did a movie. The Left Behind did the series. So they go and they collect all the people and start funneling into these collection sites, FEMA. And it says, and I saw thrones, and they that sat on them, and judgment was given to them, and the lives of those who had been beheaded. So this is where we start to judge, if I'm not mistaken, these other people. Remember, because it's going to be a separation of the lamb and the goats. And it said, and the lives of those who have been beheaded because of witnesses to the boy Yissa'Yah and because of the word. So what's going to happen is before in chapter 19 it talks about how Babylon's going to be destroyed and how the prophet was going to be thrown into the lake of fire. See, it says, and I saw one minister standing in the sun, he cried out with a loud voice, saying to all the birds and the fly in the middle of the Zulu, come and gather together for the supper of the great Elimo, to eat the flesh of the sovereigns, and the flesh of commanders, and the flesh of the strong ones, and the flesh of the horses and of those who sit on them, and the flesh of all the people, free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the sovereigns on the earth, and their armies gathered together to fight him who sat on his horse with his army. And the beast was seized, and with him the false prophet, who worked signs in her presence, by which he led astray those who received the mark of the beast, and those who worshipped his image. The two were thrown alive into the lake of burning fire and sulfur. And the rest were killed with the sword which came from the mouth of him who sat on the horse, and all the birds were filled with their flesh. So this is that movie Knowing. The sword, the fire comes out, starts killing things, and the birds get to eat all the flesh, the bones, whatever is left of them. So they chained the dragon and they chained the dragon, serpent of old, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he threw him into the pit. Now, one of the things that's going to happen prior to this is what's coming with the collection. As they know Babylon is getting ready to fall, the false Messiah is going to come and give you a choice. You either die as a witness to the false Messiah, or you take the mark of the beast. Okay? So now you got to remember, and that's what I try to tell my wife, a lot of the people who are Catholics um, have already done this. Okay, a lot of people who didn't repent because like Pastor Mel says, they're attached to this calf or this image. This is the reward. Okay, that you're going to receive is you're going to be part of the beast system forever. Okay, so that's why he's saying, "Come out of her, my people," because if you don't separate from the false Messiah and the harlot, you don't get, and that's the point. Is there have been those that never worship the harlot, and so when the Most High remembers His people and brings us back home, there are going to be, and Second Ezra talked about it. Said there's going to be those rejoicing, those who are sorry, and those who are going to be bound. Because there are going to be Bantus who did not help us. That it's kind of like remember he has to get the Egypt. He has to cleanse it. We have to be cleansed of all this that's around us here in America and other places because it's unclean. And two, a lot of these people left behind, they're gonna be like, wait, we're the church. We're supposed to go. But they're going to be taken to places where they're going to be killed as terrorists. Like I said, they're going to get burned in the fire that we're worshiping, and of course, you're out. Okay? And this is one of the things they talk about. You're out is to receive the mark of the beast. Now, of course, I just read, those that took the mark, because they talk about the bunkers they built. It says, so it says the prophets and the beast feed was with him the falter, and who worked signs in his presence led him astray. So one of the things that's gonna, and this is what the guy was saying, is those who get their out to the false messiah, to the these fallen angels or whatever, they're gonna be controlled by the false messiah's people. Well, because the devil's gonna get put away for 1,000 years. Remember, he comes out, he's gonna build up an army again to try to attack Jerusalem, and so essentially, these are the same things that happen in Babylon. So you're dealing with the same entities now. They didn't go nowhere. They didn't, people weren't, they didn't just vanish. And see, the real thing about it is that you've been tricked into thinking that through the religions or whatever, that you're worshiping the correct one when you're not. And see, the point is of us talking to you about this is because the scripture says he don't want nobody to perish. He meant that. But this is why we're given the opportunity. And even like Pastor Noah said, no, don't believe what some people are saying, that the Gentiles of the Bongo won't get their chance, because yes, they will. And I'll tell you how I know they will, is because the Planet of the Apes showed you that when the so-called quote-unquote apes were on top, the way they mocked it is the whiter. If you saw that in the movie, the original one, most of the white people were in cages that couldn't speak, or they were mocking, especially in the other versions, the humans, the white people being the servants of the apes. Okay, like, oh, you're going to be servants, you're going to be kept in cages, and da da da, and that's kind of how they looked at it, because the apes are really us. And so that was one of the ways they didn't want to tell you that the apes were the black people, because they wanted to hide that fact. But we're the only ones compared to the gorillas, the Bantus especially, and Congo. So this has been a revelation for me, because I'm putting the pieces together to really comprehend what's going on. And the interesting part about it is they're aware. I can tell even with some of the stuff that I'm going through in my job that they're trying to make us suffer. They know who I am. They know spiritual attacks are more prevalent. A lot of us are dealing with hardships now, because this is where they're trying to make their final no. We're not letting them go. And that's why the Most High gave me the vision of a lot of destruction coming, because he's going to stand up and you have to call, and Messiah's going to make the call to come out. And I think that's when the brother said, and this is how I know they showed what's going to happen, because, and I wasn't sure Pastor Miller knew this from Simon Toko, but the movie 2012, they were talking about the Mayan calendar and all that's going to happen. The earth is going to be renewed and destroyed. Remember when they had the ships, okay? They call them arcs. What they were doing is they were trying to hide the Noah flood again, which isn't supposed to be happening, okay? And show you, because remember in the movie it said all the rich people are going to be the only ones getting on this boat. Do you know that what they were lying about is the wealthy people getting on that boat that are chosen are the Bantu people getting their money back. Okay? The destruction of the earth comes when, and this is what, I think there was a brother who even saw this vision. He said, when the Most High brings his people, because remember he says, you're going to go to the ships and go home, because we came out here through ships. So they're going to set it up to where we're going to get to leave. But they're going to give us money to go. They're going to give us our wealth. It goes just like when we left. When we left Egypt, we were carrying our wealth with us. Same thing with all our captivities. And they know that. And so with the money that they use, all the stuff they took from Congo goes back home. And so the movie was showing you. He said, oh, you got to be super rich to get one of these tickets. Well, remember in Scripture, he says, thou art rich. Because we're the people who are rich but are poor because of those who say who are Jews or not, like something on Satan. So that was the play on the movie, showing you that the wealthy people getting on these ships to go home to Africa, when they said Africa didn't get touched. That's the return of the Bantus. And that's what they were showing you, that the Bantus are going home wealthy, back to Congo, with their money. Because they were showing that aspect in that movie, but they hid it in the fact that the world destruction was a flood with a bunch of earthquakes to kind of simulate the Noah story, when the reality is going to happen is it's going to be on fire. Okay? Because one of the things the Most High said was, and he showed this to a brother who said, I saw the angels take us home. We were taken home. He said he took off flying now. And that's kind of where I said, okay. But I had my other Bantu brother who had the Mwanda Musami, said he saw the ships lined up, and they were nice ships, and we were getting on them, and we were heading home. And he was like, "This time is almost coming." He said he saw this, and that kind of matches more with what the movie was showing that the people made. And this could be why some of these Illuminati, these Masonic people taught them about the spaceships, which I now know is it is a mockery of the day of the Lord, but that is the fire of destruction that's coming upon the people after we go home, because what's going to happen is the military, just like what happened with Pharaoh, kill them. The treaty was signed, go out, you're done. Everybody's gonna be mad. And like, we shouldn't let them go. And the destruction of the earth is because Yissa'Yah stands up, just like Second Ezra said, and he starts attacking these militaries trying to come after us, to kill us, because we went home. And that is when you see the movies about all the destruction, like San Andreas and all these different things that hit America. Okay, this is why they built the bunkers to go run and hide, because when we go home, they gotta run and hide, because they're gonna send the military after us, and the military gonna get jacked up, and everything else gonna get jacked up. And this is why you see those futuristic cities in the movie, because they gotta rebuild. It's like you said, I knocked down, but they build back up. But see, the devil's not going to be in the mix anymore to cause any issues. So this is why you see this utopian society, future stuff, where people are like, oh, humpty doo doo doo, kind of like Demolition Man, where be well, be well, be well. Okay, type of stuff. But the Bantu people want to be doing their thing, I'm just saying this because, I've seen several things. I know there was the one where he said, I can't remember the scripture exactly, but it says that, I think Second Ezra talks about that there's going to be so much that when the earth is restored after this, it's going to be, because they're lying about the nukes. They say it causes millions a year. They're lying, because if that was the case, people couldn't be living where they living at. They said, oh, the yield was not high enough or low. And that's why they're lying about what happened in Chernobyl, because they said actually it's the most fertile. They hide it. They said there's a lot of nice stuff there. That's why the dude we were showing, he was eating the plutonium, saying it ain't dangerous. They're lying because they didn't want people to corner the market on the electricity. Because if they knew that it's not as dangerous as they're telling you, then they could go nuclear and not have to pay for nothing. So what happened is the earth after is going to be plentiful. But the scripture says there's not going to be enough people to pick it. That people are going to be wandering and looking for each other and wondering where they went. And that's what the book of Eli was kind of portraying a little bit. When they said the sun came down and destroyed everything. Punched a hole in the sky. Remember? So, I'm so sorry. But anyway, I want to say Kimball at the Tanzambi Yamazulu. I'm hoping that this is going to be accepted pretty openly about us, and this is why we need to come together. I know I can't go live with these things because I don't have enough followers, and this is why I'm realizing that, it's hard to expose a lot about the Pharaoh if you're not truly blessed with enough followers, and he knows that you're trying to reveal some things that other people won't talk about. So that's kind of why, they try to really shut me down from people knowing what I know because they understand that I'm comprehending. I'm the one the devil was like, I didn't want him to wake up. You woke the wrong dude up because he's not afraid